Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we are spending some time in these 4 journals here. This is my Q1 flip through for 2026. It's one of my favorite things to do. It shows us how the pages I set up last year in some of these journals are faring, what needed to be changed to make them work a bit better, and what's going well and what's not. I really like these points of view every quarter so we can see the progress of filling things in as well. It's a nice little snapshot. So we're going to start with this journal here. These 2 here won't take us very long to get through, but I am going to flip through everything in this journal so far. And this is my B5 journal. It is my main journal that I use for the entirety of this year. And this is my nameplate here. I think it looks like a key with the dotted line. It was very unintentionally done, but I can't unsee it now. And it sort of gives you a glimpse as to what's to come, because I fell in love with this paper pad that I found in the store late last year. It is the Park Lane Dreamland paper pad. I'm not sure if you can get it everywhere. I know you can get it here in New Zealand and Australia, but I absolutely loved this particular piece of paper here and wanted to base my entire theme around purples and ethereal vibes and butterflies and flowers and all that. So that's what I did for the startup pages in this journal. And we're moving in to the first tracker. I always like to have some sort of reading tracker at the beginning of my journal. It just indicates what I'm working towards. And this year I'm doing the Mosaic reading tracker. This was introduced to me by my lovely friend over at Read with KF on Instagram. I'm not sure if she's the creator of it, but this design came from her and I've just implemented it to suit myself. And I really love it. I'm going to put up on the screen a little picture that I've taken so you can see the guide here, but essentially you break a square into 4 triangles, and depending on what you want to track in them, you can choose which order you colour in and what they represent. As you can see on the screen, I've got my order starting over here, so rating, and on this key is everything down here, so here's rating, and then for the second box, or triangle down the bottom, we've got genres. On the right hand side we've got format, which is tracked here in the key, and then up the top we've got page length. So that's how that works for me, and I tend to film it going 1, 2, 3, 4 for the videos here. Sometimes when I'm doing reels, or when I did break it down as a short and a reel for you guys, how I use this tracker, I did fill it in 1 by 1 so you could see how it worked. But I'm really enjoying this tracker. I'm definitely using it again in 2027. There's only 2 things that I'm a little bit concerned about. One, these 4 here shouldn't be here. I unfortunately forgot that I hadn't filmed this and started putting in April content, so I do apologise. But at the end of March I was at 41 books and I only set up for 125. That was supposed to be my goal for this year, and I've exceeded it already. I'm well ahead into my goal, and I'm worried that I'm not going to have enough space to plan out the rest of the books. I'd really like them all to have their own little mosaic to track with, so I'm going to have to figure out something to do when it comes to that point, maybe some sort of tip in. Yeah, it's really not as easy as I thought it would be to put one in at the moment, so I'll have to see how I go. Obviously we've got until book number 70 to figure out whether or not that is something that needs to be done, but it is playing on my mind already just how far we've come to fill this in, and it's only March. Last year I had a very slow start to the year with reading, so I thought that this would be an easier task for me to stay, you know, under 125. I wanted to slow my reading down, but it hasn't happened yet, so it is a little bit concerning. The other thing is, it's just that I'm not really vibing with the colours. It's very eye-catching, and the colours are my 5-star key, and then I've just repeated them all the way through for for consistency when I am filling in my journal, and also filling in on camera. It makes it so much easier to just have the same pens, but the way that they all mesh together is very different, because obviously they represent such different things, and sometimes I feel like the blue is really overpowering against the pastel colours and the green as well. So we'll see how it continues on. I'm not hating it, it's just a little bit of a nitpicky moment, but Otherwise, really loving this tracker system. We'll be doing it again. Now we're on to the bookshelfie. Again, please ignore the red books. There's only 4 of them on here, but they're not meant to be here. I'm so sorry. The rest of the content will be only Q1. I realized afterwards, and oh no, actually there will be one more page. I realized afterwards, and then yeah, it is what it is. But essentially the bookshelfie has been set up with the numbers from 1 to 125 scattered throughout. There is 3 shelves in total, and I'm absolutely loving the idea of scattering, but it is sometimes hard to find the numbers. It is a bit of like a blind game trying to find them all. And when the camera is going, it's almost like a bomb is ticking, trying to find it fast enough. But I enjoy the process at the same time. It's kind of weird to explain. I had a really good comment recently on my last video saying, how about you put even numbers on one side, odd numbers on the other, so you still have that ability to look for the scattered number, but it's not going to be, you know, too hard to find. And I think that's a fantastic idea, and I'm going to have to implement it in some way next year. Even maybe like if I did like broke the shelves down and the first 50 are in here. Though in saying that, I do love the fact that they're all over the place, so perhaps that's not something that I would do and just go with the even and odds. But it's really cool so far. I'm loving it, and I will be doing this again next year. And this is where I put my particular key. Instead of doing star ratings like I normally do on my bookshelfies, I did the month because that made the most sense to me. And then we're going to flip over into these 2 pages here. Normally I have another bookshelf here, obviously with the tip in that changed things. So it's really a bit of a jump scare to have Read the Rainbow here. I'm still not used to it being there, and every time I flip to it I'm like, oh my goodness, yeah, that's right, that's there. I only have 2 left to do, orange and white, and I'm really looking forward to changing this layout next year. But I am happy with the progress so far. On this side here for Days Red Pixel, I really love this tracking system. It is 2 pixel charts. On this side here is the one that I colour in every day, how many books I've read, depending on what the key says. So we've got 1, 2, 3+ books and did not read. And then on the right hand side it's much spottier because I only mark on it when I've finished a book. So really loving this system. The reason why I use this is because I love seeing trends forming, and they already are happening. Most of them are books where I've already days where I've only read 1 book, but you can see multiple instances, like on the 5th of every month, the 14th of every month, 8th and 9th. You know, that's repeating itself, and it's really good to see. And then obviously here as well, I'm starting to see days where I tend to finish books happening. Interestingly, normally in the last couple of years since I participate and co-host a book club, we always read from the 3rd to the 9th, and I generally always have a book finished on the 9th. And this year I've only had 1 on the March the 9th, and that wasn't book club. So it's been really interesting. Goodness me, something just fell on my desk. That gave me an absolute fright. Anyway, it's been really interesting to see those trends happening and not happening this year as well. Moving in to possibly my favorite challenge page for the year. This is the A to Z challenge, and I'm going to be doing it like this again next year. I really have enjoyed having it laid out like this. Normally I'd have just a list on 1 page, and I'm enjoying the visual aspect of this journal so much more this year. I have been doing the A to Z challenge with authors this year, so I'm using their last name, and as you can see I only have 10, well now 9, because obviously I've read 1 in April that could mark that off. 9 more books to complete, or sorry, letters to complete, and then this challenge will be done. And I've left a little space down here to track some stats about that, which I'm really liking. So yeah, this challenge has worked out really well. I'm loving the visual aspect of it. I will say though, this year I have been printing out a lot more covers and other things for when I'm wrapping up each month, and it has become a little bit trickier on the months where I'm reading a lot to make it all fit on the one page, because I don't like to print out a piece of sticker paper without filling it, but equally I'm filling it so much that it's becoming harder to keep it all to one page. So that's a little bit of a problem that I've had, but it's such a mild problem to have as well. I'm just loving the output of this journal so much because of how visual it is this year. Moving into these two challenges here, or bingo boards. So we've got the reading bingo and the book tropes, and this year I put the prompts on these tip-in pages so I could write the books behind it. Unfortunately for me, I decided to use the pen that is excuse me, I used the pen that is highlighting here. So we've got the brush tip end, which is obviously much darker, and then when you flip it to this side and it's just the fine liner side, it writes a lot lighter. I can see it in person. You guys can see that there's something down there, but perhaps in some ways you might not be able to read the titles. So for next year I'll definitely be using a darker pen, perhaps a black, just to make sure that that doesn't happen again. But overall, really enjoying this. Only got 4 left on this bingo board. 4 on this one as well. I think I filled in one last night that I knew was missing off. So yeah, really happy with these, and I know that I'm going to have them finished in the next month or two. That does lead me to being a bit worried about challenges for the whole year, but we'll get into that when we get to that time. Next 2 pages are, I really like how they're laid out, and I really enjoyed this particular page here. Unfortunately for me, I didn't realize that I was going to set up one of my journals last minute, and so this page has become kind of pointless to me. I have an entire journal like now dedicated to readathons, so this being here has no value. I am going to try and catch it up at some point. It is behind at the moment, but I don't really use it, so that's just transparency. And sometimes we set up pages and then find that we don't use them, and that's absolutely fine. On this side here I've got my TBR takedown, and the issue here is more so they're all intentionally trying to get through physical books on my shelf. Now that may mean that I read it through a different format, but I still get it done, because I do have a wrist injury. It makes reading physical books the hardest, so I do turn to digital, whether that be ebooks or audiobooks, a lot. And so far I have finished 2. I did DNF 1, so the challenge is it's underway. I think this is where I'll focus when I run out of ideas for the bingo boards. So we do have a plan for going ahead, and it will be focusing on here. On to this next 2 page spread here. Really loving the monthly theme, and one of the changes that I made was writing down the pens that I use. This has been so helpful for me. I've mentioned a few times on the channel, and if you're new here you won't know, but I do have chronic illness. It does affect how I remember things, and I also use pens that are for 2 different reasons very often. So like, you've got these 2 pens here, for example, and for March one of the colors was this number here, 39, and then this is part of my everyday tracking, so it's one of the colors for, it's 2.5 stars, it's the color for March. So over March I ended up using both these pens at the same time, and had I not written this down I may have made the mistake of using the wrong color. So even though I do try to keep them separately, I do have 2 containers, I try to keep everything apart. This has been a real game changer, having the tools that I'm using down the side here. We'll be continuing it next year. These are all just the themes for the year so far. I am doing 12 different romance books or series and taking core themes from them for my monthly themes, and so I just wanted a place to sort of showcase that. And then on the book club reads page you can see things have changed a little bit. I made the mistake of setting up book club without having 2 spreads for it, because I do belong to 2 book clubs. I wanted to participate in both this year, and I just only set up for one. I mentioned before I am a co-host to a book club, and then I'm obviously a part of a friend's book club, Goober's book club, and I realized I needed to change things up for that. So on the top, I'm going to have, unless there is no 𝓘𝓬𝓮𝓷𝓽𝓮 book, which there isn't for April, I'm going to have the book club that I co-host, and then I've made these little like cover bits that I can flip out, and I'm going to put the covers of the books that were for Goober's book club underneath. I didn't read either of these, and I haven't read either of these books either. I do need to print them out. Like I mentioned, I ran out of space when I printed out for March, so I will be doing that in the next printout with sticker paper. But as you can see here, the book club I read for Goober's book club was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Theories, and if you've been around long enough, you know that's my favourite series. So I did participate with the conversation, but I didn't actually reread because I just reread it, and whilst I was almost tempted to do it again, I did have other things that I had to focus on. So I just want to have space for both of them, and I will be putting these little 5-star stickers on the backs here, probably along there or down the bottom here, just so I've got a space to track that as well. The reason why these 2 don't close is because I haven't put the covers on, so I won't put the Velcro down until they're there. And obviously, like I mentioned, we didn't have a book club read for April for 𝓘𝓬𝓮𝓷𝓽𝓮, so I've just put the Goober's book club down there. Moving on into here, so if we just ignore from for these 4 here, this is the books read log. I've never had one of these before. I've seen a lot of people have them, and I didn't think I needed it because it felt a bit repetitive. But the one thing I've noticed about myself is that I do repeat a lot of information throughout my journals, and I like that about them. I love having that repetition, so I didn't see why I haven't had one of these pages until now, and I'm really enjoying it. I just love that it's all the books that I've read so far in one place, and it's highlighted by the month, so I can easily visually see how many books I read per month by their colour, and yeah, working really, really well. Moving in to January, like I mentioned, each month has a core theme, and for January I went from the book Funny Story by Emily Henry, and I used the themes of a lavender farm. There's a pivotal moment there. He works at a winery, so that's why I've used wine, and they go to a farmer's market. So that is the setup for this particular month, and I really enjoyed it. It's so different from what I normally do. I'm much more of a fantasy-based journaler, so this has been a really big challenge for me, but I've enjoyed it a lot. And on the next page, before we go to the next page, the other thing about my cover page that's changed and made it much more vibrant and different for me is I'm having the covers on the front page here of what I've read, and it's really filling up the cover page for me in a way that is fulfilling my soul, so I will be continuing that again in 2027. Now we can flip on to this page here. This is exactly the same as late last year. I changed it up because I knew it wasn't working and I wanted to sort of experiment, and this is working extremely well, so I'm going to continue it. We have the monthly view where I track what I've read and the days that I read the book. So sometimes I'll have a book that I've read over say 10 days, but I've only read it 3 times, so I only put it down 3 times on the calendar to just show where I read it, and it's obviously marked down here by colour key, and I take a colour from the cover of the book. I've got my ARCs list here as well, and that's where I like to keep it every month. Even though I don't track it on here, I just like to have it by a calendar. And then we have this new type of layout system that I've got going on for my functional spreads. So last year I called this quotes, it's now called first lines. It literally is the first line of every book I read, even if I DNF the book. I really, really enjoy this. It's a nice way to just see how books are started and if they have an impacting start or not. And then also we've changed things by having a little bit of a Dutch door here. So I've got my TBR here. I've got books book haul or unhaul, because in this particular month I just unhauled a lot of books as opposed to buying any. And then on this side of the Dutch door we've got spinner wheel. I've still got a space to write down the monthly readathons that I'm participating in, or the month prompts for the year-long readathons I'm participating in. It still means a lot to me to have it here, despite having that new journal. I did add in this section called subscriptions. At the start of the year I had Spotify, Kindle Unlimited and Audible, and I only have Spotify right now. So I think I'm going to change that up in May. I just went on autopilot and set it up for April, even though I realized I haven't used it at all. So that's something to change in May, but for now each month has the subscription section and a library hire section. I am really relying on my library to get through a lot of my reads this year, so I'm really happy to see that this segment gets bigger and bigger each month. Flipping over into the reading log, I have changed the layout because I've obviously got the bigger covers on the front cover of each month. I just still wanted to have a small cover and a space to jot down the information. I'd been doing the same layout for the reading log for 3 years and I got extremely bored of it. So I really like this horizontal bar type situation that I've got going on. I still can fit the same amount of 12 books per page, per 2 pages, and yeah. It's working out really well. This first month I had a little bit of teething issues. I didn't know where to put my format stickers. I didn't know where things needed to line up. We talked about it in my January wrap up, I think, or was it my February? I'm not sure when we talked about it, but I got some amazing feedback from people about how to set this page up with the format stickers going into February, and I've changed it since then and I'm absolutely loving it. So thank you so much for always giving me great feedback. My community is so interactive. And then we're going to flip over to this page here. I did read 15 books in January, and for this blank page here I will be filling it in probably in June or July. I like to have this particular project and do it in a batch system, so I'm just going to put my favorite quotes on this page here. Any setup where I have an extra page where I don't read so many books and, you know, have a big white page, I end up using to fill in with my favorite quotes as opposed to the first lines of every book. So I did this last year. I really enjoyed it. And going into February, again, same similar layout for the core ideas, but this one's very different. I went with a sweet pink bakery theme because I followed the book Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison, book 3 in the Love Light Farm series. This, or is it Love Light series? One of them. Anyway, this is really, really cute. I thought it went well for February, being the month of love, but it still has the core elements of every monthly setup. So we've got monthly view, arcs again here together, first lines, love how filled in this is, TBR, book unhaul again, and then spinner wheel, subscription, readathons, and library hires. And I didn't read over 12 books in February. I only read 10, which was much better for me. I need to get back to reading a lot less. I want to get into doing more other hobbies, but at the moment I'm on an audiobook kick, and I read it 3 times the speed, so I can get through an audiobook in like 3 hours. So that's why I'm going through so many. But anyway, really happy with this layout. And then we go into the last monthly theme that I'm sharing today, which is cowboys. It is based off of the Rebel Blue Ranch series by Lada Sage, and the quotes follow Swift and Saddled. That's my favorite book out of them all. That's book 2. I read a total of 16 books in March, and I'm really happy. Everything's sort of fine-tuned out now, and I'm just so happy with how this came together. It's so full looking, and I'm hopeful that the rest of the year will start to look like this as well. Once I've got into the swing of things, I really started to enjoy the layouts. And I didn't mention it before on the February one, but this is how I changed things up. I do have a line down here as opposed to January didn't have one, and I've put my format stickers along here, and that makes it a lot more neater. And then obviously, because I read 16, I've got a blank page here, so I'll fill that in. And then we go into April, but that's where we end in this book here. So let me put it off to the side. So we've moved in to my Reading Data Journal. This is a square notebook from Art and Olive. It is the Raven and Books journal or notebook, and I started it in 2025. This is a journal that I want to cover until the end of 2027, hopefully 2028. We'll see how we get on when we get to 2027, but this is a data heavy book. That's why it's called Reading Data Journal. In the front I have two segments. One is a series tracker and the other one is a owned TBR, and they follow the same keys that are all down here. If you follow my wrap-up videos, you get to see those keys up close, but essentially anything that has a red bar across it means it's been completed. Anything with a brown bar means I've decided to stop that series, and anything that's not finished will not have that bar there in place. Some of these series I started back in 2021, 2022, and I've got a really big passion for 2026 being the year that I finish series, and I have been working extremely hard to do that already. I think I've finished 6, maybe a bit more, I'm not too sure. I did have every intention of finishing the Well Met series, that's why I put book 4 in my TBR takedown for the year, and then I found out when I finished that there was a book 5 coming. I'm not sure if that's the last book in the series, but considering there's been a few years and then now this new book's coming, I'm not mad about it because I really love this series, but it did throw me off a little bit. I was like, I was so close to finishing another series. But yeah, I'm working on finishing series that I've got back here that could be completed by now, and I haven't done anything about it. Obviously I've still got to fix this. I made a mistake in my last wrap-up video, but otherwise this is going really well, and I am looking forward to seeing where this sort of ends off. I intentionally changed my pen for 2026 so it does look different from what I've been using. I know that's a little bit annoying for someone especially like me who likes consistency throughout, but the pen was starting to slowly fade on me, so I decided instead of getting a brand new pen I would just change to one I already had in stock, and I'm really happy with it. So that is the series tracker, and again very similar here with the own TBR. These are all the books that I've had on my shelf over the last 2 years so far, and I just mark them off on the colour code depending on what year I finished them in, or if I've unhauled them I've done the brown colour. So there's a couple there that have had that happen, and this is where we're at currently, and I'm hopeful that I won't be adding too many books to this list this year, but both of these two global trackers have plenty of room to grow. As you can see, I have set up multiple pages with the intention that it was going to be a journal that lasted more than 2 years. And then we're going to go straight into the 2026 portion of this journal. Purple is the colour, so that's why it's got a purple tab. I wanted this to look very much so in cohesion of the main cover page for the other journal, so that's why I've used all the same elements, just in a different format. And then on here we have my goals, and I'm really happy with how my goals are going for the year so far. I only have 10 goals. I have completed one already, and that was to read 6 new books to me. 6 new authors to me, and that has been completed. And then I'm working really well on these first 2 goals here with reading more diverse books that have characters that are either BIPOC or LGBTQ+, and have good representation of that. And also I am obviously ahead in my page count. I haven't yet written down what my current page count is. And then the only goal that I'm a bit concerned about is this read 26 physical books. Like I mentioned before, wrist injury, so that's something I've got to work on. But otherwise everything's going really well. So we'll see how we fare when we get into June and see if any more are ticked off, but currently we have 1 completed. For the books by ratings, genres, format and page length pages, last year they looked like this. 1 second, I'll just go back and find them. I just had it then. So here is an example of genres and format. Whilst I really love this, it doesn't give as much of a clear representation of things as these do, so I will be definitely doing this again in 2027. So I have used the setup here for the same for this one, and these two are also the same, where everything matches up in line. I made an error here with my genres. I should have done exactly the same thing, but I wanted to stamp in the headers, and therefore I made an error, because now things are a little bit harder to tell when they're not matching up in lines. But you can tell that 4 stars is winning by a mile here in my star ratings, and fantasy and romantasy along with romance are doing pretty well. Again, here for format and length, same thing. You can see that audiobooks are flying along, and I tend to read books between 301 and 500 pages. That is not new information to me, but I really do like seeing it visually showing up on these 2 pages here. Here is my yearly stats. It's a huge omnibus table. Like I mentioned before, I do repeat information. I really like it though. Every sort of setup I have isn't just for fun. I do enjoy the reason why it's in here, and I do use them in different ways. So whilst this is something that's very visual, this here is where I find information at a glance. Really quickly can come here and find anything I need to find. And this year I've also gone ahead and coloured them by month per box. I've complained about it in the past, how my handwriting does change, and I've tried to be extremely consistent. I am a Gemini. I don't know if that plays into it or not, but sometimes I'll slant the book this way, sometimes I'll have the book upright, sometimes I'll have it slanted and upright. So my handwriting does change a lot, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't drawing that to my eye, because I could see it every single month how it was slightly different. So by colouring the backgrounds, I have eliminated that a little bit, and I'm really happy that I've done that. It's going to be a little bit of a problem when we get to June, because I've used such a dark colour. I'm not sure how that's going to stand off, but we'll see. I might have to use a white pen then, but that might be a little bit annoying. We'll just see when we get there. We've got the next 2 pages here, DNFs and rereads. I actually have DNF'd a second book in March and forgot to put it down. So I'm going to put it in April instead, because I've done all the tallying up, and I feel really bad for doing that, but equally it's already been done. So I don't want to ruin all those tallies and have to fix everything. And otherwise, really enjoying having this page here. It's working very well this year. This is just for me, so I don't really talk about it very often. Moving on to the library savings and ARC pages. This has stayed exactly the same as last year. It worked extremely well last year. It's working extremely well this year. And on this side, I did make some changes to my library savings. I wanted to know how many hires I had per month, especially now that I'm reading a lot more. In March, I discovered that my library had BorrowBox, and so I've been using that a lot. I use Libby all the time for my digital reading, and obviously also visited the library and got some physical books. That's why this number is so high. I had 26 hires in March. But you can see that despite being someone who hires a lot of books, sometimes I don't read a lot. In saying that though, 10 books over the month of March, and I read 16, was fantastic. So yeah, really happy with that sort of addition. And I also changed things up here, so I can see how much I spend per month, or sorry, how much I was saved, and then the total for the year so far. So I'm at $454 saved by using the library, which is fantastic. Moving into my monthly stat pages, I really enjoy these, and I am so glad that I've made them a bit more visual this year. Last year they were very basic and I didn't enjoy them very much. So using the pie charts, although I was a little bit off with how to set them up in the beginning, I've spaced them out much better on this side. Has really changed things for me. I'm really enjoying it, and also changing to having these headers printed out makes it a lot more streamlined, and I'm just really happy with how it's looking. Initially I didn't have borders around these, and I added them when I did my quarter 1 stats page, and I will be continuing this from here on out. I absolutely love the borders. I know it's just a 2-lined or double-lined border, but it's done enough to elevate the page for me. It does mean that I have to sort of change the layout of how I'm doing, where I'm putting these stickers, but that's absolutely fine. I might just write favourite and least liked down the side here or here, because I've got the room for it. And again, we've got March here showing the same thing. And then on here is my very first quarter 1 stats page in this journal for the year. I am absolutely in love with how visual this is. This page here is definitely a visual page. It is not necessarily something that I look at and go, there's a lot of information here and I'm going to take from it, because like I've mentioned, I have this and that's where I tend to get it from. But I do love this page. It is a very great visual to have, and I'm so glad that I have continued it this year. Also, I used a lot of stamps this year, and whilst I really enjoy how it looks, it did mean that I forgot to put in my format section. I did have it in my format. Here we go. Here's Q4, and as you can see, I had my format section here, and because I didn't use as many stamps and I also had things spaced out differently, it meant that I could fit them in. So I'm going to have to be a bit more mindful about how I use the stamps going in to Q2 and making sure that I can fit my format in here, because it is important information if I want to have it completely visual with all the information. But otherwise, I'm really happy with how that's looking, and that's how, as far as this journal has gone. We'll now move in to the last two journals that are very quick to get through. So we'll start with the Gamifying Reading journal. This is a BUKE A5 blackout notebook, and I will definitely be having another notebook that's a blackout from here out. I think this idea was really fun and I definitely want to continue it. So I started this as a whim, a last minute decision for my 2026 reading journal content, and so I'm tracking all my readathons, year long, quarterly and monthly in here, and I just love the idea that I can play around in this journal and have a lot of fun with the blackout as well, because it's very eye-catching. So I just have an index here. I'm not sure why I did an index in this one or in the other book I'm going to show you. I thought it would be because it's information I don't normally follow, but I absolutely never check back in on this, and it's still out of date. So, oh no, it's actually up to date, sorry. But I don't really track this whatsoever. And then if we look at the next page here, we've got the buzzword challenge. I'm participating in the title and in the cover. So we've got cover behind here on this tip-in, and then we've got title here. And I admit that some of these will be filled in the months that they don't particularly fall into. For example, this was read in March, but I didn't have a book that really fit the title before and after prompt. So I try to do this in the month, but if I can't, I just fill it in when I can. And so far I am doing okay. I have to put 𝓚𝓲𝓷𝓴𝓼 here because I've forgotten to do it. It keeps bothering me that I forgot to put it on. So that's something else I need to print out. And then we've got the easy reading challenge. I've completed every single prompt so far. And then we've got a Year of Goober. Now, Year of Goober has 2 prompts per month, and you can choose between either one or do both. I do both, and so far it's going really well. So this is the first 6 months here, and the second 6 months there. Then TBR-a-thon is something that I normally do in January. When I was watching the announcement, 𝓚𝓲𝓷𝓴𝓼 𝓤𝓼, I think is the creator's name, 𝓚𝓲𝓷𝓴𝓼 said that she was doing a year-long readathon. I think this was the reason why I decided that I needed to have this journal. So I had a place to track it. I decided to do map of stories, and each month you read a different type of genre. You can do genre blends. For example, the January theme was historical, and so I did mostly historical fantasy or romance, and I was able to complete that, but each book is within its own genre. So for March, the genre or theme was middle grade, and I haven't read middle grade books aside from Howl's Moving Castle in the longest time, and I had such a good time. So I'm really enjoying the fact that this is introducing me to things that I wouldn't necessarily pick up any other time in life. And so yeah, definitely enjoying this particular readathon. I do have a second page for it so I can write down the titles that I've read and have a little picture of them as well. I did have in this journal, this was the one journal that I didn't set up on camera for you all, and there were in the original flip through of the 2026 setup a lot more pages in this journal. I was doing 75 booked, and I would also set up this page and the January readathon page differently from this. However, I did not do 75 booked. I quit it very quickly on into the segment just because I realised that with chronic fatigue and other autoimmune conditions, I just did not have the energy to commit to something like that, and I should have never set it up for it. So I decided to rip all the pages out. I'm keeping the pages that I can, you know, reuse the blackout paper that hasn't been used, and it's fantastic. And then I just sort of glued these two together, and yeah. The one thing about this journal is that the binding does have white binding instead of black, which is kind of annoying. So you might find that there's a few pages that have this in the middle, and that's simply why, because I'm hiding that binding. But otherwise, I also ripped out the first attempt of Q1 bingo, cover bingo. This is hosted by Taylor Books. I do it through Storygraph. I really liked this one. I'm going to be doing Q2. I haven't set it up yet, but really like this prompt as well. This prompt game is really fun. And then in February I had readathon bingo, and as you can see, this is how I got on. I wrote things down here and ticked off as much as I could. My pink pen kind of died on me, so that's why it looks a little spotchy there. And then, oops, for March I had Spring Into Reading bingo. I really like bingo boards, don't I? And this was really fun, and I got a lot done. I think there's only 4 that I didn't complete, so yeah, really love how this page came out. And as you can see, nothing else is in here, so I need to set up for April's readathon as well as the Q2 cover bingo game. So for April's readathon I'm doing classics to match in with map of stories, but that's something I'll get into in the next flip through. Final book that we're looking through is my Books I've Loved journal. Now, I am a reader of a lot of books, so I don't want to be doing review pages for every single book I read, and I came up with the idea of making a journal that was just for books that I've loved, hence the title. I started this in the middle of 2025, I think, so I'm extremely behind. I've only ended up at the end of March, and I only do books that are either 4.5 or 5-star reads. And so as you can see, we've got an index page, and then there's just, you know, some pages that I set up last year. I think I started here or here for 2026. I think it might be this one actually. And so for these I've done a page per book. I only write down the quotes that I've enjoyed. I don't see the point in doing reviews when I write them enough. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this process. It's very creative. It's very much so out of my usual, and so it's a challenge, and it's also a nice way to unwind. So that's what I'm doing. And we've got 2 twisted crowns here. I really loved this setup, but this one is my absolute favorite. I shared setting this up as well on YouTube. Yeah, really loved this Our Infinite Fates one. I used the cover as a guide, and again, this is my latest one. I also used the cover again to decorate the middle of the page and then just went around it. So that's sort of what I'm doing. I do have a lot mapped out in here already. I think I've got these in place. So I do have to fill in all these pages here. Some of them are going to have a book per page like I've got here. Some are going to have their own 2-page spread. Maybe that one doesn't need 2 pages, I'm not sure. But yeah, I've got it all set up like this, sort of mapped it out so I kind of know when I can get to 2026 books, which is kind of worrying since I have so much to do, but I'm looking forward to the process all the same. It doesn't matter when I get to them, it's just a really nice way to unwind. So that is the video in full. All 4 reading journals have been looked at. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this flip through. I do have one other journal that I use. I can't seem to find it on my desk. I will not show you my desk. It is a mess. But essentially I just use it to jot down literally everything in, so then I can fill in these journals and make them look pretty, as opposed to just jotting in right into the journals and making mistakes. I try to limit my mistakes as much as possible, and so yeah, that's the only other journal I use. But thank you again for spending some time with me today. I hope you've enjoyed this flip through, and until we next meet, I hope you have fun reading or journaling, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye everyone.